Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Recruitment Coverage Show from very Apnu, Ahmedabad, India. Today, we have our special guest, Chris Howe, a high performance coach and a senior leadership professional from the UK recruitment industry. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Canton. Thanks for having me. Great name, by the way. I know I've said it to you before, but brilliant name.
Thanks, Chris. Chris, could you please, tell a bit about yourself and your journey in the industry?
Yeah. So I'll start with just the career path I've taken in recruitment. So probably like a lot of people, I fell into recruitment in 1999 July. So yeah, where are we now? 24 years. There you go. Done typical sort of branch-based work. That's everything from sort of blue-collar drivers, permanent recruitment, sort of more senior level roles. As the career evolved, so that was with a business called the Staffing Group, and Extra Personnel. Managed to fine-tune and sort of carve a way to sort of progress my career with that business, and then was part of the team that founded and launched a business called Single Resource in 2006. That was a managed service, high volume, blue collar business, all business secured primarily through tender work. That business grew like you wouldn't believe, and that group, by the time it was sold not so long ago to another business, that was from 2006 to an exit point of around 200 million. The group actually combined, it was just over 400. So unbelievable growth, a very, very well run, solidly led business by the original founder of the business and his managing directors. Then sort of moved around and been to work more recently with a smaller business to support the growth and development of that company, to the point where I've just come to a point now where time ready for change. And I'll come on to a little bit more detail in terms of why that change has reared its head and why I'm so passionate about what the new venture is. But yeah, as you've banded me up on the header, Your Results Coach Limited is something I've done on the sideline for a period of time. Coaching methodologies. It's aided me in terms of coaching and developing people in my day job in recruitment, but now it's time to take the next big step and actually move into that on a full-time basis. So that, in short, Ketan, is my plotted history, full of ups and downs. Don't get me wrong, but I guess the downs have helped me appreciate the ups as well. So.
Certainly, and then thanks, Chris, for your brief introduction there. So, Chris, before we begin, obviously your story that you recently shared on LinkedIn about how you reset your relationship with alcohol, and then your commitment to change, and especially the drive to help others, is undeniably admirable. So, fantastic, coming out, talking about it, and then I think that's a good starting point for our topic, of today is building a mindset for success and leadership in recruitment. So yeah, if you want to talk about your story, and we can take it from there.
We'd love to. Yeah, we'd love to. So yeah, been very, and this will probably come out as we talk. If there's people watching this video now, or when it's recorded, those that have worked with me will know that I want to be an authentic, transparent, honest individual. That's with customers, and that's with people and teams. That's really, really important to me. And my own values say that I just want to be a good person. Unfortunately, the recruitment industry, it can be tarnished with a bad reputation. I was with an old customer. This is C-suite level person last week, and his words were that he sees agency, and I'm talking here about blue collar, is maybe a disrespected sector, and it really hit home. That thinking, crikey, that's quite disappointing, and I think that a lot of why he sees it being disrespected is driven by a lot of the behaviours that happen within that sector. Now, I want to talk a little bit about you. So you've led me into my own story, and I'm quite happy to share as much detail as I need to. So, but it does link to leadership quite considerably. So I mentioned before, I developed my career, and I'm very grateful for the career that I developed in the staffing group and for the owners of that business. Very grateful. They gave me numerous opportunities to develop and grow, which is brilliant. But during, it's around 2008, recruitment is it's a bit of a partying industry, I think, to be honest, certainly in the UK. And the more and more I speak to people in the US as well, same scenario. Client entertainment is surrounded by drink. You celebrate a business win and a new contract win with a few beers on a Friday after work or whatever it may be. You'll go to the pub and you'll go for a curry kettle. I know we spoke about that. That's quite typical in England. And I was in that trap. I was drinking regularly. Now, this isn't. I wasn't somebody that was drinking a bottle of white wine first thing in the morning on a bench in the street, but I was drinking regularly. There'd be a glass of wine with the missus or two. Beers Friday, Saturday, Sunday afternoon with a Sunday roast, which is obviously my go-to meal in the UK for a Sunday, would be accompanied by wine and a couple of beers or something like that. What then happened is I could see some real behavioural changes in myself, and actually, and I say this to anybody watching, if you're in this place, the bravest thing you can do is actually make that acknowledgement that you are in a place where, do you know what, I'm leaning too heavily on alcohol to numb the stress, to numb the pain. I've had a busy day, and all those sort of things. And I knew something needed to change. And I'll explain the behaviours that would have been seen in my day-to-day activity. My stress levels were through the roof, alongside anxiety, but it was like the stress and anxiety would never, ever go away. There would be a constant level of stress and anxiety. And the science tells me now, that's what your body does, because if you're drinking, even if you're binging at the weekend and not drinking in the week, your body will still release a stress hormone that makes you feel stressed for no other reason than it's releasing the hormone. My interaction with my superiors, I would say often wasn't the best. In fact, I actually spoke to my old MD, still to stay in touch, and we were talking about a month ago, and he used the phrase, it was like I had a chip on my shoulder. So you understand that, you're antagonistic, you're defensive, you take things personally. But that sort of wasn't me. That wasn't the Chris Howe that had really dug deep and grafted to develop his career in the early stages of his career. I also noticed it with how I was interacting with clients. Again, defensive and often antagonistic. Now, of course, when you're in that place and you're in that state, your own behaviours will generally reciprocate the behaviours coming back at you. So guess what? Defensive Chris got a barrage of emails, quite, I would say, maybe bordering rude emails, but only off the back of the fact that my own behaviours just were not in a great place. I did a lot of driving. You could be in the car 5-6 hours a day, and there was constant stress in the car. I would be nervous going into client meetings. If I was doing something like this, crikey, the hairs would be standing up on my head, and I just wasn't functioning anywhere near like I should have done. And I sort of got by scraped through. Externally to myself, I don't think that people maybe registered and acknowledged that actually I weren't in the best of places. And I then chose, and one of my posts on LinkedIn, I just hit the red button and said, this is it. I've got to do something about this, because my career is highly likely to become stagnant if I continue. The final part was, so as a leader, as someone that was managing a broad team of people across the country, the engagement I had with those people wasn't as it needed to be. Meetings may be rushed, one-to-ones accelerated, objectives and sort of focuses and development plans were rushed and maybe not as thoughtful as they should have been. And I didn't feel that I was really being present enough for the team. who were dead loyal to me, thought I was bloody great, but didn't realise inside, I was having a lot of challenges. So hit the red button, and best decision I ever made, and I stand by it now. One of the bravest decisions I've ever made, and I'm so proud that I've done it. Like I say, don't perceive me to be a raving alcoholic. I like to party. That's fact. And the recruitment industry likes to party. It just generally centres around drink. So that's sort of the background for you, Ketan, in terms of where I was at.
So that's a great, obviously, like I said, commitment and, changing your situation. And then there's a lot that goes in because, one is self-awareness, and then two is, you spend time, making sure that you literally tick every box that's required. And then that is hard work and needs discipline. And then that sort of brings us to, our first question of, what elements, or what factors, in your opinion, drive, thriving leadership, especially in the recruitment sector? Because, you've been doing this 24 years, the industry, and then, so if you want to share, starters.
I can, yeah. So I'll always start, and I've used this word already, and I believe in this, is authenticity. Authenticity. I was in conversation with somebody. It's probably going back 2 or 3 weeks, and the phrase was used was covering. And what we can see, this isn't just recruitment, but we're talking about recruitment. So what you can see is that people and leaders even they come to work, and they put a different mask on. They put a different. They just almost the family man and the good friend that's come back in on a Monday from the weekend sort of puts a mask on. So I need to be the boss now. I need to lead these people, and I just think it's all wrong. And the terminology was called covering, and there's a lot of that happens in the industry, and I can't sort of express this enough, that authenticity, transparency, and just honesty is it will carry so much weight, because the reciprocal behaviour that we get is all those three things plus respect. Once we're in a place with staff, team, people, peers, don't forget your peers, because it's what leadership's wider than just you and the people in your team. But authenticity is the key thing for me, for sure. But I think to take that a step further, and I've been engaging a hell of a lot on LinkedIn on a variety of different topics over the last couple of weeks, and this one's raised its head quite a bit around toxic environments. And my view is really, really simple. And think about what I've said about me, and think about the place I got myself in, is also self-care. Now, it's quite broad, that, and can be overused. But in short, what I'm saying is, as a leader responsible for the welfare and performance of the team, you need to be turning up to work as the best version of yourself. And that best version of yourself will then portray the values, the traits, the beliefs that will aid you in then leading a team successfully. You're not going to be turning up, we'll use the alcohol, hungover, high levels of stress, lethargic, not really motivated to do a great deal. You need to be turning up, as I need to as a coach, turn up to work as the best version of yourself. Now, self-care can be all sorts. That's drinking. There's a ratio to your body makeup and your weight. Well, get 3 litres of water down your neck. Build a solid AM morning routine that sets you up properly for your day. Things like practicing gratitude and journaling and writing things down and goal setting. There's all sorts of things that you can do to make sure that you turn up to work as the best. I use that, the best version of yourself. Then from that point, guess what? You've got the right foundation and building blocks to then lead successfully. That's where we can drift off into all sorts of places here, Ketan, but yeah, that would always be my first go-to when it comes to being a successful leader.
Sure. So obviously, being transparent is and then authentic is where you would start, isn't it? And then you sort of linked in well in terms of the behavioral patterns of starting your day on a positive note, journaling, and the other things. But when you're trying to develop a mindset of success, or which leads to sort of developing a thriving leadership, you're going to come across obstacles.
Yep.
How did you turn those obstacles? And you've got a wonderful story of turning those obstacles into opportunities, and then achievements, and obviously as a growth strategy. So if you want to share some highlights on this point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it links into what I'd already said. I'll be honest, challenges and obstacles, I didn't deal with them very well, Ketan. 2008, 2007, I didn't, and I got through them because I've got a lot of experience to pull on, and I've got a great team, so I'll get through them. But I didn't enjoy that process, and this is one of the things in my early career. When you get an obstacle thrown at you or a challenge, it's almost like, right, now I can prove my worth to my customer and my team. I almost embrace an issue, because in recruitment, whichever sector you're in, you are going to be let down by people, because that's our commodity, for want of a better word. And I always believe that the best way for you to demonstrate your service isn't when it's going great, it's when those challenges arise. Now, and I'm really passionate about this, because this is something that I've used on my own life to really transform the way I think, is adopting a growth mindset, which is really, really important. There's lots of strategies and activities you can do to help with this. And I read a book by Carol Dweck as part of a coaching sort of program I was on with her. I employed a coach myself. So which is why, I believe in what I'm doing, because I've done it myself and it works. I've got 2 coaches at the moment that I'm working with on other things. But they are, the growth mindset gets you in a place where it's not a fixed mindset where you limit beliefs. You limit your ability to progress and handle challenges and deal with issues. You actually appreciate learning. Some of the most valuable learning that you will ever get is by failure and by making mistakes. I used to hate it. I was a perfectionist. I procrastinated. I planned. That's just how I was built, and I've had to scrap all that and think like we spoke about at the start of the show. I've turned up today, and I'm just going to talk about whatever we talk about. The old Chris would have been scribbling notes, and everything else. I'm just thinking, and I don't think you get the authentic person then. So a growth mindset's massive, and it's about accepting that you might not get everything right. That's as a leader, and that is as a team. So it's really important to foster an environment that people understand. If you come up with an idea that maybe isn't quite right, that's absolutely fine, because no idea is a bad idea. But that one idea that isn't quite right is highly likely to start stimulating thought through other people in the team, where then all of a sudden the magic happens and you create the right solution. So that's really important. So you've got to do the work on yourself as a leader to get to the point that you adopt a growth mindset yourself and accept and be adaptable to change. It's healthy. It's healthy. Yeah. On occasion, the status quo is good, but being adaptable and fit for change is brilliant, particularly as we're going through a lot of challenges across the sector and economically at the moment. There'll be a need to change, and making sure that that's instilled into the team as well. And I think if you can develop that type of culture, that for me is a winning formula, a real winning formula. Egos are left at the door, everyone on the same page, everyone working together. Forget the backstabbing. Forget getting the elbows out and trying to outdo each other. Just come together as a team. And guess what? If you adopt that sort of approach, that will get noticed by leaders, because you will be seen as the person that's contributing. You will be seen as the person that's adding value. You won't be seen as the antagonist, and therefore you move things forward. So does that sort of gone around a little bit there? So does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. And then you highlighted about the growth mindset. And then one of the factors that has been sort of highlighted a number of times is your urge to learn and develop. And then because we're talking about the obstacles, there's an interesting book that sort of is my bedside, Bible that I sort of refer to, "The Obstacle is the Way" by Ryan Halliday. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing book. Anybody who wants to sort of get over obstacles and use them as opportunities is they should refer to it. Highly recommended. And then two is you mentioned about adapting to the change. Now recruiting is dynamic. We come across changes probably 100 times a day. Changes in client requirements, changes in candidate requirements. So embracing the reality, the sooner we do it, the sooner we put our obviously habit and discipline in terms of embracing the reality, the better for us. And then obviously developing a mindset of success rather than yes, healthy competition is great, but then you want to make sure that we all come together, like you mentioned. And then the biggest obstacles is sort of not looking at the reality as it is, and then thinking it as sort of cribbing about it every time there's a change.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there's an element of resilience in there as well. You're right. You can. A day in recruitment's often never the same, and you'll get all sorts of curveballs and grenades thrown your way through a day. And it's about a little bit of resilience. You use one of my favourite words around discipline. Often, a challenge arises and it's like, I can really deal with having to deal with this now. But the discipline says, but I have to. It's an essential task. It needs to be done, particularly if it's a client-related thing. And I think that discipline is really important, but being resilient, and approaching a challenge with a headspace to say, we will get it sorted. There is a solution to everything. It might not be in your head. It might be in somebody else's head in the team, but there is a solution to everything. So I think if we approach challenges and obstacles in that way, all we've got to do now is let's find a solution. Simple as that. So easy said than done.
Absolutely, and it's not always easy, but it's always doable. As long as you're ready to act. And then everything is top down majority of the times. That if you react in a certain way, that's how you'd expect responses from your senior leadership, and then obviously the others on the team to sort of come back to you, and then taking care of your customers. So important point there. So what are the some of the most actionable techniques that you used in your career, and again in recent times, obviously to overcome obstacles, developing obviously a thriving leadership for your teams?
So if we still talk about obstacles, so I would use an example. An obstacle for me would I've got a few buzzing on my brain. Okay, an obstacle or a challenge, and I'm gonna relay this to sort of mindset again. So I was in a business, and one of the individuals, very dominant personality, very dynamic, like a brain, like a pinball machine almost. But sometimes maybe just needed to take a few breaths before diving straight into very task focused. And we had a situation where that approach, within a week, we lost 3 people that were all quite important to a specific contract and customer. One was middle management, and 2 were sort of based on the client's location. Now, the easiest thing to do is just lose your temper, get angry, and what the bloody hell have you done? But it doesn't serve a purpose, doesn't get us anywhere. No. So first things first, we've got an issue, we've got to deal with it. That then meant manipulating people, getting some project cover to the site, reallocating responsibilities within the senior management team. That was all a relatively quick fix with some external recruitment to replace one of the roles on the site. It did cause challenges to service. We lost market share versus another provider. So therefore there was financial damage to everything that went on. So, and that was all about, there was myself, a senior, project senior, and then 2 project officers, so to speak, that would supported that challenge. So it didn't take us too long to at least put a plaster on the problem. It just took us a little bit of time to then build a proper solution back up again with those people. But beyond that, what's really important is that then an individual then learns from those type of mistakes. So I went through a process of looking at, I did a lot of personality profiling with the senior team, and we did a bit of a workshop and a way day so we could get everyone together, so everyone could start to learn and understand a little bit more about each other and how their natural behaviours would maybe rub somebody else up the wrong way, but actually could be a really complementary way of communicating to somebody else. So as an obstacle, that did give me quite a few headaches, because it was quite it was an exodus of 3 key people at once. Didn't happen again, and I know the individual definitely would have learned from that situation. But what I'm trying to express is that I didn't lose my temper. I was frustrated, don't get me wrong, but all I thought to myself is, how can we now use this situation for the better of that individual, who is a brilliant operator, brilliant person. So hopefully that sort of answers a question the way a route you were trying to take, I think.
Certainly, and then having a sort of good head on your shoulder, especially in situations where there are crises. How you handle the crisis is more important, and that's what you demonstrate to your sort of subordinates and your team members. You want to make the most of the crisis, and then turn them around, and which is what you did. Likely in the example that you shared, and that links us into sort of the question of how do you develop a winning culture, especially in a recruitment business, which is very competitive, very sales revenue driven.
Mm-hmm. This, crikey, you can. So first and foremost, I've already spoken about the leadership, and I've already spoken about the way that people need to be turning up to work, and that needs to be encouraged. So if we just labour on that for a moment, I see a lot of sort of well-being and mental health training that's been done in businesses. I was on the receiving end of just so I can understand the content for a global business only a couple of weeks ago. But then what I see in practice is not necessarily following through on that. Because my opinion is, if we've got mindset right, we've got the workload right, i.e. right skills to the right person, right jobs to the right person, and the right amount of work to the right person, so we can make sure that they're in a great headspace, they're not overworked, they're not overwhelmed, they're not burnt out. That's the first place I'm going to go, and that's because the new venture says that is always going to be my starting point. The other part, if you think about how I've had successful teams in the past within recruitment, is I've already said you turn up authentic, you're honest, you're open, you're respectful. But I think it's making sure that those team members feel that they're not just part of a business, but they are part at times of the direction and decision making within that business. Ultimately, there will always be decisions made at board level that sit at board level. That's done, when people on this call understand that. But I just think it's making sure that we enable and empower individuals to feel, actually, I'm making a difference here. And I think I've got quite a list of things going on there, and there's probably quite a long timeline to get all that done, to be honest. But then when we've got to a point, in a good space, mindset sorted, got the growth mindset, doesn't care if they make the odd mistake, it's fine, I'm going to learn from it, has the right job, has the right role attached to them, can afford a fucking break. This industry, burns people out. We expect people to be in an office 7 till 6 still, and then on call out of hours in some sectors, which I did when I was young, but back a long time now. So I think if we put all the things I've spoken about together, by default, we are in a position now where you're able to deliver and generate a winning culture. Of course, a lot of people in this industry are here because you can earn good money in the recruitment sector. You can. Of course, you've got to get your remuneration right. Of course, you've got to benchmark against the industry and make sure that A, you're not losing good people, and B, you're able to attract more as your business grows. Yes, you can do your away days, your fun days, and your team building days. They're always good fun. And I think one of the big things, and this is a bit of work, this is sort of part of the solution for your results coach, is also getting senior teams together and actually creating workshops that help them to interact with each other, bounce ideas off each other, create ideas, and just basically form a really rock solid bond. And I think once you've got all that list done, winning culture's there, for me. So.
Certainly, and it's a step-by-step process. And one of my questions I want to ask you is, you've been doing this 24 years, and you mentioned that you made some mistakes as well on the way. So, what are some great resources that have helped you, in your journey, in the last 24 years?
So, I've worked with excellent owners of businesses, and I've learned a lot. It's not always been perfect, I'm not going to lie. But as a rule, it's been a positive experience. I've had the benefit of the use of a mentor. That was probably for about 12 months. That was great because that was actually someone that was helping me to develop the strategic thinking around corporate strategy, what direction you're going in, and basically putting that in an organised format so it was clear for everyone to understand. And the last point is I use a coach. I've invested tens of thousands of pounds in coaches. I use 2 coaches right now. One is probably one of the most prominent figures in the alcohol-free movement, a guy called Andy Ramage. And he's supporting me in terms of further education. And I'm really starting to dig even more detail around positive psychology. And another Adam Smith, he is supporting me with the infrastructure in the business as I take it forward, essentially. And I've learned, it's unbelievable. Yes, it's cost me some money, and yes, it's an investment. But what a brilliant investment it's been. And the pace of learning when you work with people like this, it does that. It can do that because you can dictate as a client, I want to be learning like this. I'm a little bit, no, go. So, I want to be learning like that. So,
absolutely.
Go on, sorry, Katan.
Yeah, so sorry, and you can have as many coaches and as many tools as you want, but if you aren't going to act on it, it's not going to work, isn't it?
No, this is so. There's loads of little phrases I just keep in my head and use, and I use this for myself. There are times for the thinking cap. Yeah. So I gave you the example of the individual that was very, very task focused, and I had to do a lot of work because I'm a lot more placid and calm in day-to-day work, and I want people to see me like that because it's important that you're not stressing and panicking and all that sort of stuff. But with that individual, it was about making sure that we just took a little bit of time, stop. Let's just think for 1 minute before you make that phone call, before you send that email. Let's just take 5 minutes just to think and reflect. And often within that window, I would stretch it, by the way, because I'd stretch it further than that once we've got the 5 minutes done. There may be a few little different things we might need to say, do, email, ring, whatever it's going to be. So that's the that's the first thing in terms of I'll link that back to when you talked about the crisis, But so there's your thinking cap. But actually, there comes a point, and I've worked with other people that are so flipping on it, it's untrue, much more on it than I am, because I will sit and think and sort of pause for thought before the action goes on. So there is absolutely time for the thinking cap, but sometimes there is 100% the need. You get your action hat on, put some urgency into what you're doing, and go and react.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then just as a parting question, what is one myth? Obviously you want to bust about the recruitment industry.
Ask again, Katan, please.
What is one myth? Obviously you'd like to bust about the recruitment industry. That you've been doing this 24 years, and I'm sure there are lots of myths. What is that one thing that you want to talk about? In terms of it's a myth about the industry, and yeah.
A myth.
Yes.
A myth in the industry. Ooh. I'll tell you what I'd say. And I'm passionate about the industry. I think that because of a minority I think sometimes the industry can get a bad name and a bad reputation. I've spoken a little bit about challenges, issues. I touched on toxic environment. I'm not going to go into that now. But there's some flipping brilliant people in recruitment, some amazing, amazing individuals that are just, the best people you could ever possibly cross paths with. So for anyone watching that's not in recruitment and doesn't have an opinion of the industry, do you know what? Everyone works the socks off as a rule. Typically, people will be honest and straight with you. I would ask, as part of this podcast, those that sort of say yes to everything and then fail to deliver, stop doing it now. And this is a mantra from an old customer of mine. This has been up for 15 years. Just do what you say you're going to do. So for people outside of the industry, it's a very hard-working sector. It's a very rewarding sector for anyone that might be considering getting into the sector, by the way. That's really important, very rewarding. And my career is testament to that, really. But yeah, just for that minority, guys, just get let's not overcommit, and let's just make sure that whatever we're gonna say we're gonna do for a customer, we over deliver. In fact, one last thing on this. I interacted with a chap. This is on LinkedIn, actually. It was awful. He'd just had a bad experience where he was looking for work, changing jobs, and he had a phone call, and the phone call was, how can we help? Da, 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 da. And then it flipped into a sales call, and I just don't think I think he had over 2 million impressions and likes on the post, and it just said to me, it sort of feels sometimes like the industry may get itself a bad rep for the wrong reason and for a minority of people. So it's not a bad industry. It's a blooming great industry, and everyone works their socks off in the industry as well. So that's what I'd like to say, Ketan. How's that? I can't hear you, Ketan, by the way. Can you hear me?
Sorry, it certainly is a great industry. I think it's a third largest, industry globally, after US and Japan. Definitely, everybody sort of works really hard. Definitely rewarding, but not easy. So yeah, I agree with it.
Yeah, definitely not easy. Definitely not easy. So not at all.
Certainly. So Chris, thank you so much for sharing your insights, and then obviously being the guest on the Recruitment Curry Show. And hope you enjoy a curry this weekend.
Yes, you may have influenced me to go and grab myself one, Ketan, so I'll probably do that. But no, listen, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad I've been able to share the story that I've shared, albeit there's a lot more to it than what I've managed to share in the time we've got. And if anyone on the call, any of your colleagues, are in a similar place or want to look at support from a coach, then please reach out via LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to have some conversations. So there you go.
Awesome. Thanks once again, Chris. And you have a fantastic day.
Take care.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Ketan. Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Cheers.